human meant anything, there were the first men, creatures caught between beast and God, walking the edge of extinction, learning to survive in a world that did not want them alive. This is their untold story. A story of fire, hunger, courage, and the first spark of what we now call civilization. 50,000 years ago, the earth was a battlefield of survival. The air was cold, the nights were endless. Glaciers stretched across continents. Saber-toothed cats, dire wolves, and mammoths ruled the land. And somewhere between the shadows of the wild stood them, fragile, curious, and outnumbered. They were not the strongest, nor the fastest. They did not have claws or fangs. But they had something no other creature possessed, the ability to imagine what did not yet exist. That imagination would become their greatest weapon. They wandered the endless plains in small groups, following herds and seasons. Each sunrise was a question of survival. Every night, the roar of predators echoed in the darkness. And yet, in that darkness, they began to see something different. Possibility. One night, lightning struck a dry tree. Flames leapt into the air. Most fled in terror. But one, curious, trembling, fearless, reached closer. He touched the light, and for the first time in history, mankind held fire in his hands. Fire was more than warmth. It was safety. It was light. It was power. It changed everything. Around the fire, the night no longer belonged to the beasts. It belonged to them. With fire came gathering. And with gathering came communication. At first, they grunted and gestured. But soon, those sounds became meaning. Warning of danger, calling a hunt, sharing what they saw. Language was born, not from brilliance, but from necessity. And with it came the power to pass knowledge from one generation to the next. They began to hunt together, to plan, to share. They learned that unity was stronger than muscle, that cooperation could defeat any predator. They had discovered something sacred, each other. They didn't have kings or borders. No laws, no money, no temples. But they had loyalty. They had courage. They had love. Even if they did not yet have a word for it. When one of them fell, others mourned. They buried their dead, sometimes with tools or flowers. They believed, even then, that death was not the end. In their hearts, faith was already being born. They looked at the stars and wondered. They saw the moon change shape and the seasons come and go. They began to understand time, the rhythm of the earth, the dance of life and death. Their minds were awakening, but the world around them was merciless. Storms, hunger, disease, and beasts tested every breath they took. A single mistake could erase an entire tribe, and yet they adapted. They learned to sharpen stones into blades, to carve wood into spears, to tan hides for warmth. Every broken bone was a lesson, every scar a mark of wisdom. Through struggle, they evolved. Their hands became steadier, their minds sharper. They learned not just to react to nature, but to shape it. They carved, they built, they planned. They became the first creators. Fear gave birth to faith. When thunder roared, they believed the sky was alive. When fire burned, they saw a spirit within it. They whispered to the wind, to the rivers, to the mountains, searching for meaning in everything. The world was full of gods, and each one reflected their awe and their fear. And in the deep silence of their caves, they began to paint. With blood, ash, and earth, they painted animals, hunts, and dreams. Every brushstroke was a story. Every figure, a message. They were saying to the future, we were here. We lived. We dreamed. Those caves became the first museums, the first temples, the first windows into human soul. As centuries passed, they grew wiser. They learned that the seasons could be predicted, that seeds placed in the soil would grow into food. It was a miracle, and it changed everything. They no longer needed to wander endlessly. They stayed near rivers and fertile lands. They built shelters from mud and stone. They began to plant, harvest, and store. And with that patience, waiting for crops to grow, they unlocked the greatest secret of survival, the future. Villages formed, families grew, and for the first time, mankind began to build not just for today, but for tomorrow. They tamed wolves into dogs, turning enemies into companions. They learned to craft pottery, weave baskets, and shape bone into tools. Life was no longer just about survival. It was about creation, but creation brought new challenges. When food was stored, others wanted it. When land was fertile, others fought for it. Envy was born. Conflict began. The first weapons forged to hunt were soon used against their own kind. War was born from abundance, not hunger. And with war came leadership, power, and the first taste of control. Some led with wisdom, others ruled with fear. And slowly, the world of equality faded into the dawn of civilization. From scattered tribes rose settlements. From settlements, kingdoms. And from a unity that once saved them came division that would haunt humanity forever. They built walls to protect, but also to separate. They built idols to worship, but also to control. They had conquered the earth, but not themselves. Yet, even in the chaos, the spirit of the first men lived on. Their blood ran to the builders of temples, the scribes of ancient scrolls, the warriors of forgotten empires. Every invention, every discovery, every dream was an echo of those nameless wanderers who first tamed the fire. They never wrote their names. They left no monuments. But their legacy is written in every heartbeat that came after. Because without them, there would be no us. We are their children. The children of those who refused to die in the cold, who dared to imagine something more. From the whisper of wind in a cave to the hum of cities that never sleep. Their story continues. Every spark of genius, every act of love, every question about the stars, it all began with them. So the next time you look at the fire, remember, the same flame that burns in your home once burned in their hands. It was their gift, passed through time, through blood, through memory to you, before civilization, before history, before everything we know. There were them, and their story is the beginning of ours. If you want to uncover more forgotten human stories, subscribe, like, and share this journey.